Me, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Now it's your turn, Gary.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you for coming. Yes, this is the story of, mostly the story of Humboldt Redwoods State Park, the state park that begins, 20 miles south of here and goes on all the way to Miranda. It's a large park. It's the third, no, actually, I was given the wrong information. It's the fourth largest of the state parks in California. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay.
Speak a little louder.
All right, I can do a little louder. It's the fourth largest of the state parks. The largest being Big, what's the one up above Saratoga?
Big Basin.
Big Basin, thank you. Big Basin was also the first one. I'll be mentioning that later. So here's my crib sheet, and I need a crib sheet for this because this is the most insanely complicated story that you can imagine. There are books written about this. Welcome. Hi, Jack. Are you okay here? Want to?
Oh, Amy's coming.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to be, at the end of this, I'm going to reference several books. There are at least half a dozen books that deal with specifically this topic of how over about 100-year period it came to be that we actually have a state park saving the best of the California redwoods. Between Humboldt Redwood State Park and the combined national and state parks of Redwood National State Park, north of here, we've got something like 60% of the remaining redwoods here in California. I should say we have saved some of the. He's over here. We have saved some of the redwoods. We haven't saved a lot of the redwoods. Something like 5% of the original of California's redwoods have been saved. So let's take a look. This is. Let's see. We can probably do with one fewer light here. Jazz? Is Jazz there? I'm going to... Oh, thanks, love. Jay, do you know the lighting setup here?
It's kind of,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, no. It's a big breaker box.
So here we are in this. This is in the southern end of the park. If you know Hidden Springs Trail, which is down past, it's sort of north of Miranda now, and this is our favorite trail. So we'll start off here, and then we'll go back to really 1841 historically, but the fact is that for at least 1,000 years, and historians have been arguing about just how long the Sinkyone people, the Lolangok Sinkyone people lived in the redwood trees. They were forcibly evicted quite early on. Serious settlement started here in the 1860s, and that's about when loggers realized what a wonderful building material redwoods were. It doesn't rot very easily. It's easily cut. It has a very straight bark for for the sawmills, unlike, for instance, eucalyptus. You probably know the story of how tens of thousands of eucalyptus from Australia were planted here in the 1860s, 1870s, expecting these to be a terrific cash crop. And it turned out that because what's the word I'm looking for? Instead of being nice straight in the sawmills, they spiral around and they would snap the sawmill's blades. Unlike redwood, it's unfortunately it's a perfect both logging, sawing, and building material. So in the Humboldt Redwood State Park, it's about 83 square miles, of which about a third is old growth redwood that's been preserved. So that's what we're looking at here. How did they manage to save those when so much else was lost? It all really started in 1841 with the first of 4 acts of Congress which allowed anyone, homesteaders really, to buy an acre of forest for anything between $1.25 and $2.50. And this very rapidly turned into a scam where individuals could buy an acre of redwoods and then sell them to the logging companies, the largest of which was the Pacific Lumber Corporation Company. And so by about 1900, essentially the big logging companies owned virtually all of the California redwoods. I think it's okay. So around 1900, two clubs were started: the Sempervirens Club and the California Federation of Women's Clubs. And between the Sempervirens and the San Jose branch of the women's clubs, they were instrumental in saving Big Basin State Park. So this was a really good start, and I think this sort of gave the impetus or the encouragement for other people who wanted to save the redwoods that it could be done. There's an argument among historians. Is history made by groups of people, communities, or by individuals? And of course, there isn't one answer to that. But in this case, it's very much the individuals that have left us with the forests that we still have. And so let's look at some of these. Oh, I should mention, by the way, that that not all of Humboldt Redwood State Park is redwoods. For instance, here's Grasshopper Peak. The CCC built the lookout in the 1930s. It's a great hike. Anyone here hiked up to Grasshopper Peak? And here's just giving some sense of the extent of the park. This is coming down 101, and here's the Honeydew Road, and so here we've got the South Fork of the Eel, and here we've got the main channel of the Eel. And they meet at what we still call Dyerville, which isn't much now, but was a thriving community 100 years ago. The best of the trees are in this, the Dierville Flat, and in fact right here, about 16 square miles is the Rockefeller Forest. We'll be coming back to that later. So, individuals. Stephen Mather, first director of the National Park Service, and he was a member of the Bohemian Club. Does anyone know if it's still going?
Yes, it is.
Wow. Well, it was founded in like 1865, and it was based in San Francisco, but they ended up with the Bohemian Grove outside Guerneville. Do you know anything about it? I mean, is it?
Yeah, they still have a lot of events there. My
Wow.
son plays a lot of music events there.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, so it started off as an old boys. It was a place where every year they would go, and they would have a gay old time by the sound of it. But anyway, Mesa was a member of that, and in 1917, Mesa persuaded these gentlemen to drive up from Guerneville up to the Redwoods, what we now think of as the Redwoods State Park. And if it hadn't been for these guys, we wouldn't. I think it's fair to say we wouldn't have the state park there. Very interesting characters, as you see. Madison Grant, chairman of the New York Zoological Society, very much one of the people very much responsible for both Glacier and Denali National Parks, and also the Bronx Zoo. Henry Osborne, who was president of the American Museum of Natural History, and fun fact, he was the one who named the Tyrannosaurus Rex and the Velociraptor as beloved in the movie Jurassic Park. And John Merriam, professor of paleontology at UC Berkeley, and it was he who really got the public interested in the La Brea tar pits in the LA basin. Well, as well as being ardent conservationists, and they were the ones who actually founded the Save the Redwoods League in 1917. They were rather astonishingly to a modern sensibilities. They were hardened eugenicists, and the U.S. apparently was. They weren't the only ones. The idea of keeping the races apart and avoiding mixed marriages had been quite a popular interest, at least since Darwin's time. And in fact, Madison Grant, in 1916, published a book called The Passing of the Great Race. And who do you think, a little bit later on, referred to this book as his Bible?
Hitler?
Sorry?
Hitler.
Yes. Yes, Adolf Hitler found inspiration. And in fact, I think it's fair to say the Nazi Party found a lot of inspiration in America's eugenicists, which happily weren't quite as extreme as the Nazi Party, but anyway, so it's sort of odd to my way of thinking, I assume yours, that these guys who were ardent conservationists were also ardent racists at the same time. But what can you do? So in 1917, these guys were all at the Bohemian Grove, and Stephen Mather persuaded the three of them to drive up and see these redwoods. And this is what where are we? So this is how Merriam described it. Suddenly we swung from the highway, dropping down a steep slope into primeval redwood timber. The car quieted as its wheels rode over the leafy carpet. The road soon ended in a trail, and the party proceeded on foot. As we advanced, the arches of foliage narrowed above us and shade deepened into night. Like pillars of a temple, the giant columns spaced themselves with mutual support, producing unity and not mere symmetry. So, as a result of this, these three guys founded the Save the Redwoods League. And they hired, let's see if this is my name, oh yes, and they hired this guy to be the first executive director. This is Newton Drury. They actually hired him and his brother Aubrey. I haven't found what happened to Aubrey, but we certainly know what happened to Newton Drury. If you've driven north through Prairie Creek Redwoods, you'll be on Newton Drury Parkway. If you go south to Pepperwood, there are two lovely groves of trees, one of which is named after Newton Drury and Ralph Cheney, the guy responsible for the Dawn Redwood outside the Eureka City Hall. And that's a whole other story. He was actually an advertising executive. But if there's one particular person we have to, or one male anyway, that we have to thank for saving the redwoods, it's this guy. Because even though they didn't have a lot of funds, they had some funds, and he was able to persuade the owners of the Pacific Lumber Company, who owned the forests along the Eel River, the South Fork of the Eel, and along Bull Creek. That's the one that where the road goes to Honeydew. He persuaded them to hold off logging that area, which was a particularly fine stands of redwood, until the funds could be found. So the next year, 1918, Stephen May. I'm sorry.
1980?
Okay, 1918.
18.
Sorry. The next year, Mather and Grant give a talk here in Eureka. And one of the attendees was this lady who is Laura, first name Laura Perrott Mahan. And I said if there's one male who should be given particular credit for saving the redwoods, it's Newton Drury. If there's one female, it's this lady, Laura Perrott Mahan. So her story is, let me show you a couple more photos. Oh, this is from a book that I'll be referencing. This is her later on in life. And she and her husband, James Mahan, lived at 610 I Street, which is still there, just down the way here. And she was, her maiden name was Perrott, William Perrott, had come out here from Michigan, I believe, in 1865. He'd homesteaded, he'd been a lumberman. The Perrotts built a summer lodge down on the South Fork of the Eel that supposedly the chimney still stands, although Louisa and I couldn't find it when we were last there. But Jerry Rhodey, don't argue with Jerry Rhodey, insists it's still there. So she was very taken with this talk by Mather and Grant, and she promptly founded the Humboldt County Women's Save the Redwood League. And within a year, they had somewhere between 800 and 1,000 members joining this. The following year, there were four ladies who took off around the county with a big, there are photographs with a big banner on the side of their car saying "Save the Redwoods," enlisting support for this very new organization. So in 1919, we're going back a little now, Mather and Congressman William Kent, and he's the guy largely responsible for saving the Muir redwoods, the Muir woods. They started donations to the Save the Redwoods League, and finally in 1921, the Humboldt Redwood State Park was created. The state put in $300,000 to get the ball rolling, and at first there was just one single grove, was a 35 acre grove. So 1924, the annual convention of the California Federation of Women's Clubs met here in Eureka, having been persuaded to do so by Laura Mahan. And while they were here, they took a trip down to Dyerville, and they picnicked in the redwoods. And as a result of that, they were able to trying to find they were able to fund what is now the Women's Federation Grove. That's the one with the Julia Morgan fireplace. So just north of Weort. And about the same time, the Garden Club of America, I don't know who was responsible for getting them involved in the state park, but they got $1 each from 45,000 members, so they were able. So that's why we now have the Garden Club of America Grove, which is just off the Avenue of the Giants, north of Weir.
How many members again?
45,000 times $1 was enough to buy it. So 1924 in November, the deal was Newton Drury had persuaded the Pacific Lumber Company to hold off logging in the Dyerville, what is now the Founders Grove area. And she heard from someone that they were secretly starting to log that area. So she and her husband, James, drove down, and indeed they found that what was going on was PLC had started cutting down trees in a straight line from what is now the south end of the bridge over the Eel, heading towards what is now Founders Grove. And they were starting to cut a line through so they could put a spur line. Remember that the railroad had been opened in 1914, and there was a main stop on the railroad between here and Sausalito. At the station was at South Fork on the right opposite Founders Grove, really. And so if you're down there now and you're walking through Founders Grove and you see one of the 10 stumps, huge stumps that were cut at that time, notice that they're in a pretty well a straight line. And this was the PLC was secretly logging that, about to put in a spur line. So two things happened. First, there's a lovely story. This is what happened was romanticized 30 years later by the editor of the Ferndale Enterprise, a guy called George Waldner. And he wrote, this is the February 6, 1953 Ferndale Enterprise. Mrs. Mahan climbed to the flat surface of a freshly cut stump. There she stood and defied the men in her path. Only then did work cease, for she stood in the path of certain death, had work continued. Well, I say it's a little bit hyperbole there. I mean, all they had to do was to just go around her. But anyway, it sounded good. And what happened the next day, that was the headline in the Humboldt Times. Now, it didn't hurt that the Humboldt County Women Save the Redwood League had among its members the wives of two of the timber barons and the editor of the Humboldt Times on their side. And as many men in the audience will know, if your wife believes something, you don't fight it too hard. And so, indeed, this was the headlines. You can see over here what was going on. Quiet destruction of splendid trees at Gateway has been in progress week. Anyway, I think I imagine the county supervisors at the time were in two minds, because on the one hand they were getting taxes from the logging companies, who were making huge profits, of course. But on the other hand, this was starting to become a major tourist attraction. And if you're going to cut down the trees, there goes the opportunity for tourist dollars. Well, it all came to a head next February. So February the 11th, 1925, courtroom drama. This was the Humboldt County Board of supervisors who had on the one side the president and the leading lights of the Pacific Lumber Company, who owned all this, the Dyeville Flats and the trees around Bull Creek that they were trying to save. And on the other hand, they had Mr. and Mrs. Mahan, but they also had Newton Drury. Now, the year before, Drury and I think Mather, I'm not sure, had persuaded, they had some in with John Rockefeller Jr. John Rockefeller Jr. was the youngest son of the richest man in the world, I think it's fair to say. And he had given the Save the Redwoods League a check for $1 million in 1924. And I think this was very largely Newton Drury's doing. So during this one day, this drama, February the 8th, the Board of Supervisors were almost persuaded by PLC, who wanted to do a deal. They wanted to donate 300 acres of forest in return for non-interference with logging down in Dyeville Flat. And Newton Drury, he sounded a very canny guy. He had someone run in with a telegram and said, Mr. Drury. And apparently, you imagine this, Drury opens it, reads it, looks around, folds it up, puts it down, said, I think we may be able to buy PLC out. We're still waiting to hear from, and next thing, someone else runs in with a telegram, Mr. Drury. I am now confident that we are able to finance purchase of this land from PLC. And PLC fell apart, apparently. And the Board of Supervisors, who were apparently they were talking about expropriating the land anyway. But anyway, it all went just as Drury had planned it. Whether or not the telegrams actually said anything, we will never know. If you want to know more about this, Jerry wrote in his book, the Southwest Humboldt Hinterlands. He has a long chapter on this wonderful drama. But as I say, we will never know whether the whole thing was just a ruse or whether he actually did have something, presumably from Rockefeller, saying, I'll come up with some more money. Well, he did, but it took another five years. So Rockefeller, I think I've got I'm going to come back to this. Rockefeller in 1929, he ponied up another $1,142,199. And some cents, and 45 cents.
Interesting amount.
Isn't it interesting? Yeah. Anyway, I mean, we sort of talk about how Rockefeller Grove, which is really the primo redwood stand today, was purchased with $2 million from Rockefeller, but no, it was $2,100,000. Anyway, you get the idea. So let's just go back a little bit here. I want to tell you a little bit more about Laura Mahan, who's a hero, absolute hero. So she's buried here, Table Bluff Cemetery, which is a lovely cemetery, which lies, if any of you have heard me give a talk on the Lolita Tunnel. If you're in the tunnel and you go straight up 250 feet, you'll find yourself in a cemetery. And so Table Bluff Cemetery has got a lot of very interesting people. This whole plot is for the Perrots. Now remember Laura Mahan, her maiden name was Perrott, William and Sarah, who came out here in 1865. They had several kids. Here's Laura's tomb, 1867 to 1937. And I have to say, as an aside, because it's such a sweet story, this is the stone for her sister, her youngest sister, Luella. And you probably can't read it here. Born June 19th, 1871, died June 24th, 1891. So she was 20 years and 5 days old when she committed suicide. A soul by nature, pitched too high, by fortune pitched too low. And the story is that she was having an affair with a farmhand on the Perrott Spread, which is down actually right like half a mile south of the cemetery. The house is still there, and the farmhand happened to be a Native American guy, and he was accused of murdering her. And the trial took place in Eureka. And on the seventh vote of the jury, he was acquitted. It took 7 votes. It started off, I think it was like 7 to 5, and then it was 8 to 4, and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so he was acquitted, and it was finally determined that she had died by her own hand, a shotgun through the heart. So that's Luella. Nothing to do with the Redwoods, but I just think it's kind of sweet. So have all of you who have walked Founder's Grove, have you found this plaque? This plaque is at the south end of Founder's Grove, and there are actually signs to it if you're walking on Founder's Grove saying the Mahan plaque. Laura and James, pioneers in the Save the Redwoods League. California State Park Commission has dedicated to their memory this site, where on November the 19th, 1924, this is when she stood on the stump in face of certain death, Mr. and Mrs. Mahan discovered the logging had begun and led the movement that resulted in the saving of this grove. So a worthy plaque here.
Barry, why did they both die the same day? Just pure accident?
Same year.
No,
So-
the same year, but not the same year.
Sorry, who are we talking about?
The two Mahans,
Oh.
Laura and her husband.
Because one was heartbroken. I expect you to do the same, by the way. If I die, I totally expect you to say, well, life isn't worth living anymore, and as happens. So this is Rockefeller. This is John Rockefeller Jr., who, what an interesting guy. When I wrote about this story for the journal, I started off saying something like, should we judge someone's life by the very best thing they did or the very worst thing that they did? And of course, normally you focus on the worst thing, in Rockefeller's case, the worst thing he did was he was involved with what's called the Ludlow Massacre of 1914, when some 20 striking miners, and their families were killed by, really sounded like a vigilante group who were breaking up a strike. And it was never really established who was responsible for giving the order, but Rockefeller, who was a shareholder, in fact he was the main shareholder of the company that they were striking against, was certainly involved in it. Well, it was a turning point in his life. The story goes that Prime Minister Mackenzie, the Canadian Prime Minister, who was a close friend, counseled him to, said, this is your opportunity to restore the family honor. And he turned from an industrialist and a financier, which is actually, when you look in Wikipedia under John Rockefeller Jr., profession, financier, and industrialist. He turned from that to a philanthropist. And because he had a vast amount of money. So he was able to, like I say, save the Redwoods League $2 million, which, well, what's that, 100 million now. Anyway, it was enough to save this really fine stand, 16 square miles on the Dyerville Bull Creek flat. He also he had an early run-in with Margaret Sanger, the who were promoting birth control in a time when churches and conservative forces were very much against it, and he supported her, and in fact enabled her birth control organization to finally people saw the light of day. He also donated the land on which the United Nations building sits on the banks of East River in New York. So a very interesting guy. So in 1926, to say thank you for the first $1 million, to save the Redwoods League, brought him to this clearing on the Dyerville flat, and apparently they really did a terrific job feeding him. So here he is. Here's his youngest son, Thomas, I think. He was 11. Here's Newton Drury. Here's the cook. And here's the waitress. And we don't see, I think his name is Henry Silence, the chauffeur. He was the chauffeur for the four ladies who had driven around Redwood County 5 years earlier, and he was the chauffeur who brought them here. So Frank Silence, chauffeur. So 2 years after this is 1926. 2 years later, a bond vote was put up by the state of California, which passed by a 2/3 majority to finance state parks to the tune of $6 million, which was a big chunk of money in those days, and this was right before the Depression started. So I think it says something good about California that 2/3 of voters approved this. So, it actually took a couple more years for what we now know as the Rockefeller Forest to be inaugurated into the Humboldt Redwood State Park. which, according to Merriam, the finest forest in the whole of creation. And it really is a gorgeous forest. Louis and I, when we go there, I mean, it's so easy when you're walking through. The problem with redwoods is this: you can't really look up and see how high they are. For many years, it was thought that the Dyerbell giant was the tallest tree in the world, which is in Founder's Grove. It actually fell about 30 years ago in a windstorm, but until then. But the problem is, when you're walking through, you're looking up, but you can't really stand back and just see how high they are. The tallest tree in the world now is the Hyperion tree, which is at a secret location in the national park, in Redwoods National Park. Well, we don't know, but it's in Humboldt. It's in the Redwoods National Park. So
Redwood Creek,
somewhere north.
Redwood Creek Basin.
One would assume so. Oh, you've seen it?
I've been up there.
Ah.
I've been up Bald Hill, but looking down on it.
You can see it from Bald Hills?
Forest, you know.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, yeah, apparently they've actually had some vandalism there about 2 years ago. So it's good that it's kept.
British gents with the vandals.
Yeah, really. I won't argue with it. So we're sort of getting to the end here. Let me give you a couple more slides here. Oh, this is the plaque in the Rockefeller Redwood Forest, inaugurated in 1952. The preservation of this forest was made possible by a gift from John D. Rockefeller Jr., two gifts, in fact. May those who come here find inspiration and peace in the enduring splendor of these magnificent trees. I've got a quote by Rockefeller, and this is actually opposite the UN building in New York on a plaque. He said, "I believe that every right implies a responsibility, every opportunity an obligation, every possession a duty." When you're as rich as he was, I think that's a wonderful sentiment to live by. Where are we? Oh, this is in the Franklin Lane Grove. That's just north of Miranda, and I included this. This is a milepost because the road. This is before, of course, before the state highway was built. 101 was built. Now, that was opened up in about 1965. But before then, what we now know as the Avenue of the Giants was the north-south road. But even before that, it went right through what is now a lovely grove. That's called the lane, the Franklin K. Lane. He was the founding president of the Save the Redwoods League, and he'd been the Secretary of the Interior under Woodrow Wilson. So a good guy. He was also the tyrant who arranged for the flooding of Hetch Hetchy Valley in Yosemite. So, do we judge someone by the best or the worst? There's another grove. This is the Stevens Grove. William Stevens was the governor. This is it's a loop trail, lovely loop trail. Again, just north of Miranda on the Avenue of the Giants. He's the guy who signed, as governor, he signed the California Redwoods Preservation Bill in 1919. Well, that's pretty well everything I had to say. I have to mention the railroad bridge at Dyersville. If you drive south on 101, this is a major landmark, and you'll notice there are two different types of trusses, of steel trusses here. There's this one, which is a Warren truss, and this one, which doesn't have the same curve in. So these two replaced two trusses that were washed out in the 1964 flood, and my wife has got this thing about that if we're down there every year, we have to walk over the railroad bridge. I got to tell you, it's scary because you're just looking straight down through the gaps in the sleepers
And
there.
one year it was very windy, added to the anxiety.
I mean, you aren't. If you slip, you aren't going to go down through the hole. But it's still it's scary. So this is what it all might have been. This is this is what happened to 95% of California redwoods, and this is what has been left. I said I'd refer you to some books. There's a lot been written about this. This is the most recent one, the one on the right, Who Saved the Redwoods, by the Wassermans. And I've got to quote something that they say. The Save the Redwoods League started with low expectations and fulfilled them. Now, the one book I haven't mentioned here is Greg King's book. Greg King, former reporter, very much an activist. He was involved with saving the headwaters. And 2 years ago, he wrote a book called The Ghost Forest. Not all was milk and honey with the Save the Redwoods League. Apparently, for many years, they were, on the one hand, they were saving this bit of forest, but they're also arranging to give away this bit of forest. So there's a lot more here, and we can go into that. But I do refer you to Greg's book. So that's pretty well the presentation, but I'm open to, yes. Yeah.
One of the things that we had after the '64 flood, the two bridges were put in, about $12 million worth of work. They put on a chicken dinner for $12,000 to match it.
Really?
Put down 6 flat cars, and we all had lunch on top of the flat cars right in Dyersville itself.
Oh, wow.
And drove the Golden Spike, the second one.
Wow.
Which we thought was here in the museum, but they have a copy of it. Do you happen to know where the second Golden Spike is?
And of course, the first slam to put it in was missed, and then they had to go back and try again.
But you did.
Had here, I believe, is in the safe deposit box at the bank.
Yeah, I actually have a photograph of Josh proudly holding it. But he's pretty sure it's a dummy. It's a copy of the second golden spike. The first golden spike, we've no idea. I mean, the 1914 golden spike, we've no idea what would happen to that. Anyway, so you were down there?
Oh, yeah, I took about 300 pictures, yeah.
How awesome.
Yeah. Shooting slides.
What's your name, sir?
Michael Cloney,
Oh, yeah, okay. I
one of the local kids.
I know you by reputation, but
Yeah.
hadn't met you before, yeah. Yeah, anyone else? Can we fill
I
in?
just finished walking the Roosevelt Loop in there. That's pretty hairy because you get lost. It goes, the arrow on the sign goes like this. You know,
Right.
all the way went that away.
Yeah.
You gotta go, when you walk that loop, you don't realize how long it is.
Have you ever walked French Grieg? That you could easily get lost. That's next to Drury, or what's it called?
Cheney Drury,
Cheney
yeah.
Drury.
Stay away from that one.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you're at Pepperwood, I mean, there are two lovely groves, and I say one is the Drury Cheney Grove, and the other one is so that's easy. There's a trail in, there's a nice loop at the end. Can't get lost.
Which one is that one?
That's called the Cheney Drury Loop. The other one, which is immediately south of it, it's contiguous with it, is the French Grieg Grove. And I think every time we go there, we get lost.
We end up for some reason in Cheney Drury.
Yeah.
And I want to stay in French Grieg because I love the sorrel. But for some reason we end up over there and we get lost.
Yeah, every time. That's where there's the girdled tree. There was the Pacific exhibition of 1930 something, and they took 20 feet of bark, the lowest 20 feet of bark, and they cut it down. They cut it out, left the tree, but took the bark off, took it down to San Francisco, and sort of made this sort of fake redwood tree. And you think, well, that's going to kill the tree because the xylem, you know, the sap of the tree goes up. No, the tree is doing fine. But having found it by accident about three times, we went down there about a month ago to find it again. Couldn't find it.
Well, there is another half-girdled tree.
Yeah, but that is,
Saw last
yeah,
penultimately.
yeah. Anyway, anyone else?
Another one, you go down to Benbow, and then during the summer, go to the state park across the river, and go all the way over to the dam, and see the border still there from the mill that built Benbow.
But no dam anymore, right?
Well, that was taken out 6 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. Why, do you know?
This for fishing.
Okay,
Allow the fish, there's no fish ladders.
okay. Yes, sir. Did you have something?
Yeah, I've got an interesting story. When I was a little kid, I was born and raised in Scotia, and just south of Stafford when you get into the Avenue of the Giants. There's a tree off of there where an old hermit had a 3-story house built inside the tree. There's a book, and I don't know if Brody did it or what, but I remember when I was a little kid in my dad's Jeep, and he would sit out there off the side of the Avenue of the Giants watching the traffic, and we found it, went in there, and he actually had a 3-story house built inside this old burned out old growth redwood. And he used to, every day, there's a book on this, and every day he would climb up the tree and put a flag up on the top. and then in the morning, or then later, he'd crawl out there and then take it back down. I can't remember who wrote the book, but I can actually see in my memory him sitting, he had a chainsaw or saw, and he cut out an old stump alongside the Avenue of the Giants. He would sit there most of the day and watch the traffic go by.
A three-story.
Yeah,
But you actually saw the house?
yeah, it was inside the redwood tree. Yeah, he had a stove in the bottom floor, and he had a spiral staircase to the second floor, and he had a bed up on the third with for hay and whatever, grass and stuff for his bedding. And I can't remember his name, but I could still close my eyes and see this guy, this carved out tree on the side of the Avenue of the Giants. There is a book on this. I have it somewhere. It's pretty fascinating. And he would ride his bike from there all the way to Eureka to go shopping. Yeah.
Instead of taking the train.
So what year would this have been, more or less?
Oh my gosh. It was before the 64 flood, so this was probably 61, 62. Yeah, roughly.
There's one other.
Just south of Stafford.
Wow. There's one other story I had. This was in 1919 when the governor was Governor Stevens was. They were trying to pass a $300,000 bill to help save. The money would have gone to save the Redwoods League, and at the time the state budget was $14 million in the red, which of course is nothing now, But anyway, back then people had a sense of financial responsibility. So apparently the story is a choice had to be made between the parks and education. And the story is that Governor Stevens only signed it at the very last minute, the last hour, literally. And there are two reasons that have been given. One is that his wife Flora was an ardent conservationist, and she twisted his arm. But the other one is that Congressman Kent, he's the one who I mentioned earlier, and he's the one largely responsible for the Muir Woods being saved, said, "Oh hell, Bill, shut the schools down. The kids would enjoy it and would only take them a year or two to make up. If these trees go, it will take 2,000 years to make up." So he signed it. So, I mean, when I think about it now, 5% of the redwoods that were here nearly 200 years ago, that's nothing. Could have been nothing. Could have been zero. So, the trick is to be grateful for what we do have and just let go of what we don't have. So I celebrate the fact that we have that state park there and the national park here. Yes, sir.
The Titans are very well visited now in Del Norte County.
Yeah, they
Trails are very friendly.
They opened it up last summer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We've gone in from the Howland Road. Yeah, we started to go in from the river, but
It's 4 miles.
at the time, no, at the time they had closed it. This was last spring, but they've since opened up the whole trail through there.
It's a nice parking lot, 1 mile.
Okay, yeah. So this is the grove of the Titans, which is all on boardwalk. It's really nice,
It's all raised up.
really nice way to see it. And there's a good reason for that, because apparently when you have a lot of people walking around the redwoods, it compresses the soil, and it's not healthy for them. We good?